When the gates opened on Thursday the 11th of January 1866, with registered student number 1 Freddie Binks, Wesley College began its journey in becoming one of the great independent schools in Australia. The early years focused on establishing the academic program and attracting students. Dr. Corrigan, as Wesley's first headmaster, was fond of sport and gymnastics, and exercises were one of the first formal physical activities. The history books have little detail in the school's interests in sporting activities in these early years. Headmaster Way's personal enthusiasm was also for gymnastics. He was apt to saying that we do not forget that a healthy mind must be housed in a healthy body, and all manly sports are encouraged and followed with success. He threw open the shed that glorified in the name of a gymnasium so that boys could engage in various healthy and muscle-making exercises. Sport began to emerge as an obsession. Wesley began playing Scotch College, Melbourne Grammar, Geelong Grammar and St Patrick's College on an irregular basis from 1869. Australian rules football and cricket began around this period. The Silver Cup was presented for the football competition, and the holders had to accept challenges from rival schools. One comment in the Australasian newspaper is rather amusing. Each team had one big boy, rather a perversion of the term, as they were both bearded. Up until 1872, in both football and cricket, masters were permitted to play. Rowing was first recorded in the Chronicle of 1871, with the other two schools, Scotch and Melbourne Grammar, very unwilling to admit a third crew. Races were rowed school against school. Headmaster Irving coached the first crew with our first Head of the River title in 1874. 1874 also saw the college successful in the rifle shooting competition. The competition continued until the outbreak of war, when the Defence Department called in all rifles and so made it impossible for the matches to continue. An effort was made to continue again in 1919, but so many difficulties were put in the way with regard to rifles and ammunition that the delegates were compelled to abandon the sport. During 1890, regulations for public schools contests were drafted, with many changes in regard to the first games and the officials controlling them. APS regulations to this day still govern competition. The direction and control of the games Wesley participated in were in the hands of the Games Committee, elected by the boys of the college from year to year. With the assistance of the sportsmaster, all boys competed in a range of house activities. The athletics carnival were merely test races for selection at the combined meeting. The stated aim was to locate and develop the very best talent to get absolutely the best possible representation in school matches. The Games Committee also awarded the first colours for sporting performance. Sports colours could only be gained in the big four sports: rowing, cricket, football and athletics. Performances like, in 1902, R.C. Howell taking 12 wickets for 11 runs versus Scotch College, or in 1909, J.A. Prout's 459 runs versus Geelong College. House colours were awarded for performances in the house competitions and included swimming, diving, rifle shooting and gymnastics. The appointment of dynamic headmaster L.A. Adamson in 1902 and his consistent passion and emphasis over the next 30 years for amateur sport was crucial to the sporting ethos of Wesley and still remains influential in Wesley songs. Outstanding success in the first 2 decades at Head of the River, in football and in athletics, led Adamson to reinforce that the boy who plays games and takes proper exercise feeds his brain with a supply of healthy blood, the healthy body nourishing the healthy mind. 1870 was the first combined athletics meeting against Melbourne Grammar School and Geelong Grammar School, with some 556 entries and 27 events, including kicking the football, throwing the cricket ball and pole vaulting. Individual prizes were awarded as well as an overall standing for each school scored on points. The sports were abandoned when school headmasters, including Wesley's Henry Andrew, did not participate in order to prevent devotion to athletics encroaching on school work. Wesley claimed its first athletics premiership in 1906 when the competition was held on the Melbourne Cricket Ground arena. Relay events were introduced around 1938. As early as 1890, the first intercolonial sporting expedition occurred. The cricketers of Wesley travelled by train to Adelaide, playing matches against Prince Alfred College and St Peter's, and in 1903 our football team began a similar revivalry, a tradition that's still in place today. It was primarily L.A. Adamson as headmaster for 30 years, 1902 to 1932, who initially built on the legacy of others to construct a monument to the virtues of school sport. The Messiah of athleticism, Adamson had a philosophy summarised by historian Andrew Lemon. Sport created a sense of unity and purpose at Wesley. Sport encouraged boys to improve their health and develop their physical potential. Sport, Adamson believed, taught life lessons about practice and persistence, courage, teamwork, and how to deal with reverses and misfortune. Just as important as winning was how the game was played and graciousness in defeat. Adamson expected the boys to behave in a gentlemanly manner, both on the sports grounds or cheering from the sidelines. Professional coaches were abandoned in 1911, when by Wesley's Harold Stewart, the APS delegate. A way to circumvent this was to employ the sporting coach as a groundsman, caretaker or school sergeant. Charlie Donald, a Victorian King's Cup rower, had already joined the Wesley maintenance staff in 1901 and coached crews for 40 years, including 13 head of the river victories, and was known as the Prince of Coaches. From 1906, Charlie and his wife were installed as manager of the latest Wesley innovation, the tuck shop. The college realised very early that facilities were key. In 1909, the regrading of the front turf oval was undertaken, and in 1912 the boathouse on the shore of Albert Park Lake was remodelled. It was also noted that expense associated with rowing is always heavy. In 1917, the old pavilion was relocated and a fine tennis court took its place on St Kilda Road. Sport offered unacademic boys a purpose in life, an incentive to stay on at school, to act as leader, and inspiration to the younger ones. Sport offered heroes and legends. Adamson had much support. He also encouraged students to stay on at school, some actually turning 20 while still playing school sport. APS school sport was big business. The local press provided much of the attention. From the very beginning of public school sport in the 1870s, considerable space in the local press was given to speculating on which school would succeed in the competitions and to describe the matches, the boat race and the athletic sports. School football matches could draw crowds of 4,000 or 5,000 to arenas such as the Melbourne Cricket Ground and the St Kilda Cricket Ground, and the boat race attracted with many more to the riverbank. It was cricket that Wesley excelled in the 1930s, and cricket was the most popular sport in Australia in that decade. The introduction of teams at assembly was always a highlight.